Today, folks, I'm gonna share with you top 7 most aggressive and most brutal openings for white so you can dominate as white even with 73% win rate, or even checkmating early on in the game, or maybe even sacrificing a piece like the bishop. So let's start off with the first opening or first gambit. Starts with e4, which is the most aggressive line in all of the lines in the starting lines of the position, and the most common response is e5. They'll go knight to f3 and they might go knight to f6. This is the Petrov's defense, and so folks, we will just take the pawn on e5, and they might go be tempted to take your pawn back. But that is a mistake, because after queen to e2 attacking their own knight, they might go with the knight away. And that is a mistake, because after knight to c6, that is a check and a fork to the queen on d8. And so they have to cover it with bishop here, or the queen here, and that is still a mistake because we can just still take it with the knight on this line, on this opening. So folks, let's move on to the other opening. What is it? e4 again, and then we are gonna go and gambit the pawn on d4 over here, and if they do take it, well then folks, we're in gambit territory again, and after pawn to c3 happens, and if they do take it again, because they can see they can just take it again, and they got +1 point after that. Not only that, we're just gonna give them another pawn, and after that, we've developed our bishop, and ignoring the fact that the pawn can just take this, we will take back finally, and we will have this very aggressive diagonal in the center of the board. First, knight to f6. We will go and push the pawn on a5 and attack their knight. They might go knight to e4. We will go and sacrifice the bishop on f7. And when we do sacrifice the bishop on f7, they cannot go here, because if they take the bishop, this is a check. This is attacking the knight. So they might go back, and now they cannot castle anymore, having us gaining back our material, and now their king very exposed. This opening is very aggressive that it makes their king exposed and not make them castle to safety. But what if the other line happens in this gambit? So folks, the Danish gambit is not only in that line very dangerous, but also in this line on bishop to b4. Because after knight to d2, trying to protect this and this, and also trying to avoid this check, they are gonna go knight to f6, and mostly we're gonna push yet again. And if they go knight to e4, take the pawn on f7, sacrifice our bishop, and if they take back our bishop yet again, we're not gonna fork this knight this time. We're gonna fork this bishop. So this next gambit is called the Evans gambit, and so we're gonna just develop our knight with the same lines with pawn to e4 and e5, and with the same lines of knight to c6. But folks, there's a different line. We're going to the Italian game, or maybe even the fried liver. But we're not gonna go for the fried liver, because maybe after bishop to c5, which they might play, we're gonna go for the Evans gambit. b4, attacking their bishop. They might take it because it's a free pawn. It's a free pawn. And if they take it, we will go and attack that bishop on b4 with pawn to c3. In a lot of cases, they will do this. We will have a big, very nice center on the board. And they might just take the pawn. We'll take back. We get this big fat center over here, folks. And we're just gonna dominate as white by pushing this pawn and attacking this knight. What if the other line happens in this aggressive gambit that they might go d6? A lot of people actually go d6, but there is something wrong with that, because actually queen to b3 is another move of doom for them, because we are pressing the pawn more on f7, and if they do ignore that with knight to a5, attacking our queen and bishop, counter-attacking both of our pieces, well then folks, that's where they're wrong, because after bishop to f7, they cannot go king to d7, which maybe a lot of people might do, and so we will go and take the pawn on e5, and if they take back, that's mate. But folks, what if they don't do that? f8 maybe can happen, but that's still not good for them, because after they take our bishop, we will take back their knight. Their position is wrecked. Have their king not castled, their king not safe, very exposed, and plus we won back our material. And this is what makes this gambit so aggressive, because of the fact that we have so many piece activity while them having their king exposed. Let's move on to the next opening. This is e4, e5, and we got the bishop's opening. Opening up with the bishop first, not with the knight. And so if they go knight to f6, developing their knight, we will go pawn to d4, gambiting both pawns. They got two ways of taking the pawns. If they take the pawn on e4, we will take back the pawn on e5, gaining back our material. If they go d5, which is the second most popular move in the game, it is a blunder. Because after bishop to d5, attacking the pawn on f7, we might even sacrifice the bishop, because after attacking the knight on e4, they might go knight to c5, and so we go and sacrifice the bishop on f7, and if they take the bishop, they can't, because of the fact that they're gonna unguard their queen, and we'll just take their queen. But folks, what if they don't do it? What if they don't take the bishop on f7? Well then folks, they might go here, and that's the only spot they can go to. And folks, this is a skewer, so they have no choice but instead to take the bishop, and we're just gonna take the queen anyways. So folks, that is the first line I'm gonna show you in this opening. But the second line is the most popular move in the game over here on this line. They are attacking the pawn on f2 twice, seeing that they can fort the queen and the rook. But folks, there's another mistake in that. Because again, we sacrifice the bishop on f7, and if they go and take the bishop, we will go and fork them back on the king. Now they cannot castle. We will take back their material over here on this line. This is why this opening is very powerful and useful in the game, because you get very good development having this pawn in the center, having more space in the center. Not only that, you have made his king safe and exposed already. So folks, with that being said, and let's go on, move on to the next gambit of this opening. e4, e5, knight to f3, and knight to c6. This is an Italian game. This is an opening. But after, if they go knight to f6, we will go for the infamous fried liver attack. And we will go for this fork on the queen and the rook. And a lot of people will go here and try to block the bishop. We will just take the pawn on d5. And if they go and take this, we will go for the knight sacrifice, f7. And so if they take the knight, we're gonna go queen to f3 instead, try to check that king. And a lot of opponents might go actually queen to g8. And so we're gonna go bishop to d5, and that is mate. Because after the queen takes the bishop on d5, that is mate. Because after bishop to e6, it's still mate. But what if the other line happens? What if they don't go king to e8 but king to e6? Trying to go for the move and try to protect this knight on d5. Well then folks, we're gonna go knight to c3, trying to pressure that knight more. And if they go passively here, we are just gonna go pawn t4, and it's very dangerous for them to take this pawn. Because if they do take that pawn, which if they do, we're just gonna take the knight on d5, take back our material. And if they take back our knight, well then folks, this is not good for them. Because after queen to e4, king to d6, it is mate in 3 for them. And we will just go here, check them with a queen. The only move that they can do is go here. We're gonna take advantage of that by going bishop to g5. And so, the last square that they can go to is king to e8. And so folks, the last move that you're gonna do here is checkmate in 1 with queen to f7. This opening is very dangerous for your opponents and leads to a lot of threats for your opponents, leading them to confusion. And so I think you should spend your worth time and trying to learn the fried liver attack over here, because a lot of opponents below 1000 elo fall for this trap. Let's go for the last opening. Pawn to e4, pawn to e5, knight to f3, developing both knights. And so we're gonna gambit the pawn on d4. This is not a Danish gambit because we already developed our knight. And so what is this? This is the Haxo gambit. And this leads to 73% win rate. And so if they go bishop to c5, trying to protect their pawn once again on d4, well then folks, we will try to gambit another pawn. And if they do take the pawn, trying to uncenter their own pawn, we're just gonna go and sacrifice the bishop on f7. And if they take the bishop, this is a fork to the king and a bishop. And so if they go back king to e8, we will go and check them again, because of the fact that they might go here. And after that, we will just go back with taking the bishop. And now as you can see the difference, this is open right now, this diagonal. And if they go and take the pawn on d2, as you can see, this is very effective. In this opening folks, a lot of opponents might go here and not try to take the pawn on b2 because they're not stupid. And if they go here, they're just blundering the pawn on c3. A lot of people might do this, and we're just gonna trap their rook. This is what makes this opening very deadly, because of the fact that it can win you 72% of the time in your chess games. And I recommend you to try it because it is a very solid opening with e4, with e5. When they go e5, we're gonna go knight to f3, develop our knight. And if they go knight to c6, we go for the move for this opening, pawn to c3. The main goal of this opening is try to expand in the center as much as possible. And so folks, if they go bishop to c5, the second most common move, we will go pawn to d4. And we're just gonna get this big massive center over here. After pawn takes d4, we will go and take back with the pawn on d4 and attack their bishop. And so they might go bishop to c4, checking our king. The knight to c3 over here, developing another piece. They will go knight to f6. And this is a mistake because of the fact that we're just gonna push the pawn on d5. And now we're shoving the knights backwards on e7. We get this very big massive center, and also our knight developing over here and with massive development, because after a lot of opponents will go pawn to d6. This is a fork, and this fork happens in a lot of places in this opening. Folks, those are the top 7 most aggressive, most brutal openings that I have found in the world of chess. and see you guys in the next video. I hope you learned something with these 7 different aggressive openings for white. I might do another video for black, and I'm gonna think about it. And so see you guys in the next video. Please subscribe and like to motivate me to make more videos like this. Yeah. Peace out.